7 decades since the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, around 80 new fragments of the ancient texts have been revealed to the public. Archaeologists in Israel made the monumental find.
For thousands of years, the Dead Sea Scrolls have stood as one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Ancient writings holding secrets that scholars, historians and theologians have tried and failed to fully understand. But now, thanks to the power of quantum AI, hidden codes and long-forgotten knowledge buried inside these fragile texts are finally coming to light. What's being uncovered is so shocking that it could challenge everything we thought we knew about history, faith, and even the origins of our world. And the discoveries have sparked turmoil. Scientists are arguing openly. Religious leaders are urging silence. Because within those delicate lines of ink lies a message that someone, somewhere, may never have wanted the world to see. The strange part? The Dead Sea Scrolls weren't first uncovered by technology or even by professional archaeologists. They were discovered purely by chance. In the late 1940s, a group of Bedouin shepherds wandering near Qumran stumbled into a dark cave. Inside, they found something that looked ordinary at first. Clay jars scattered across the rocky floor. Some cracked open, others still sealed. But when they peered inside, they saw tightly rolled scrolls, yellowed with age, their edges crumbling at the slightest touch. A few had loosened just enough to reveal faint lines of Hebrew script. Others were bound so tightly they seemed impossible to open. These weren't ordinary relics. They turned out to be the earliest surviving handwritten copies of the Hebrew Scriptures, preserved for centuries in silence. And that discovery was only the beginning. No one has ever been completely sure who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. Were they crafted by scribes from a forgotten community? Prophets with visions of the future? Monks trying to preserve their faith in dangerous times? Or perhaps rebels hiding from Roman soldiers? And why had they been sealed away in desert caves at all? That mystery still lingers today. Many scholars believe the scrolls were copied and guarded by a Jewish sect known as the Essenes, who lived near Qumran. Others suggest they were hidden to protect sacred knowledge from invading armies. Some even believe they were left intentionally, preserved for future generations to discover when the time was right. But the ultimate question has always remained: what exactly did they say? The collection itself was vast. Inside were all kinds of writings, biblical texts, community rules, religious teachings, and even everyday documents like marriage contracts and deeds of sale. But there was one enormous challenge. Most of the scrolls hadn't survived intact. Some were burned or charred, others had shattered into fragments no bigger than a fingertip, and many had faded so badly that the ink was almost invisible. And yet, even in their damaged state, these scrolls carried whispers of something far bigger than anyone expected. They were written in ancient languages, Hebrew, Aramaic and Greek, which only added to the challenge. The scrolls were not all the same either. Some contained passages of scripture, others detailed laws or songs, and a few described strange, symbolic visions. Yet, most were broken into tiny pieces, making the puzzle even harder to solve. Over the decades, scholars from around the world worked tirelessly, piecing fragments together like a massive, fragile jigsaw puzzle. They managed to decode parts of the collection, but much of it remained silent, unreadable, and shrouded in mystery. And one haunting question has never gone away. What if the unreadable fragments hide truths or secrets that could change everything we know today? Could the Dead Sea Scrolls actually change what we know about the Bible, or even rewrite parts of ancient history? Could powerful truths have been hidden inside letters that no one had ever been able to read? For decades, the mystery only grew larger, with questions piling up and answers nowhere to be found, until now. Scientists have begun using a groundbreaking tool called quantum AI, and with it, they're unlocking writings that were once thought unreadable. And what they've uncovered so far could transform how we see history, faith, and even ourselves. But before we dive into the discoveries, let's explore the incredible tool that made them possible. Quantum AI. Quantum AI is reshaping the way we study the past, and what it's revealing has stunned scholars everywhere. For years, researchers worked like detectives, piecing together the Dead Sea Scrolls by hand, trying to match tiny, fragile fragments as if they were solving the most difficult puzzle in the world. The process was painfully slow, and even then, much of it remained guesswork. Now, with the power of quantum technology, what once took years can be done in seconds. This AI doesn't just work fast, it works with astonishing precision. It can detect traces of writing invisible to the human eye on parchment that appears blank. It spots hidden patterns and connections between fragments that no scholar had ever imagined belonged together. Some scrolls, once thought to be from later centuries, now appear to be far older, possibly dating back to the very time when the figures of the Bible were still alive. Even more remarkable, quantum AI doesn't simply offer a single answer. Instead, it generates multiple intelligent possibilities, each with its own probability of being correct. In other words, it lets us see not just one version of the past, but several, layered together, waiting to be explored. Today, in labs across the world, scientists are using this tool to peel back the layers of time and uncover secrets that have remained hidden for millennia. These scrolls had remained hidden for over 2,000 years, and the discoveries are only just beginning. Until recently, dating the Dead Sea Scrolls was mostly educated guesswork. Scholars could only say they were written somewhere between 300 years before Jesus and 200 years after. The method they relied on was paleography, judging the age of the scrolls based on handwriting styles. But there was a major problem. There were no verified samples from that exact period to compare with. It was like trying to guess the age of a letter just by how someone held their pen. Not very reliable. That's where quantum AI changed everything. By analyzing 24 scrolls that had already been dated through radiocarbon testing, the system trained itself to recognize subtle handwriting patterns and match them with real points in history. Acting like a high-tech detective, it linked ancient ink strokes to precise years. For the first time, history wasn't just estimated. It was time-stamped, tagged, and revealed. And the results are shaking the foundations of what we thought we knew. At the heart of this breakthrough was a powerful AI system named Enoch. Unlike traditional tools, Enoch didn't just read the words. It studied every microscopic detail of the handwriting, the shapes of the letters, their slants, even the thickness of the strokes. By training itself on thousands of ancient samples and applying advanced mathematics, it could estimate the age of the scrolls with remarkable accuracy. In many cases, it was off by only about 30 years, more precise than many long-trusted dating methods. And this is only the beginning. Real-world quantum machines like Google's Sycamore and IBM's Q System 1 are already pushing the boundaries of possibility. Once ideas from science fiction, they're here now, learning at incredible speeds. Which raises the question, what will they uncover next? When Enoch turned its attention to two famous handwriting styles, the Hasmonean and the Herodian, it made a shocking discovery. For generations, historians believed one style had replaced the other, like chapters in a timeline. But Enoch revealed the truth. Both styles were being used at the same time. A revelation that doesn't just rewrite how we view the scrolls, it rewrites the very flow of history. This discovery revealed something surprising. Jewish scribes didn't simply abandon older writing styles for new ones. Instead, they kept the older forms alive, perhaps as a way to preserve their traditions during times of great change. Then came one of the biggest breakthroughs. When Enoch analyzed fragments from the books of Daniel and Ecclesiastes, it found that they were written during the very same period when those books were originally believed to have been composed. In other words, these could be the original writings themselves, not later copies, but the first versions ever created. Researchers went even further, running more than 130 other scrolls through Enoch's system. The results were shocking. Many of the dates were far older than scholars had assumed. Some scrolls once thought to have been produced by the Qumran community actually predated the settlement itself, meaning they must have come from somewhere else. Even more astonishing, certain biblical scrolls appeared to be much older than previously believed, suggesting that parts of Scripture may be closer to their original form than anyone imagined. Enoch didn't just help date the scrolls, it transformed how we see history. It revealed how writing styles carried cultural meaning, how traditions endured through ink and parchment, and how some ancient texts might be more authentic than scholars ever dared to hope. But just when it seemed the AI had already accomplished the impossible, it went one step further, uncovering clues that could change everything we thought we knew. Using high-tech cameras and advanced computer models, quantum AI examined the Dead Sea Scrolls in greater detail than ever before. And what it found was more than fascinating. It was unsettling. Hidden within the faded Hebrew script were patterns that didn't look like normal writing at all. These weren't just repeated words or poetic rhythms. They resembled codes, structured sequences like those used in modern science to protect information, similar to the logic behind quantum computers. The patterns weren't random. They followed precise rules, the kind found in encrypted systems. Some passages revealed sequences of numbers that echoed prime numbers and binary code, strings of ones and zeros. It was as if the scrolls had been carrying a hidden layer of meaning for thousands of years, waiting for technology advanced enough to finally reveal it. What the AI revealed was astonishing. The patterns in the Dead Sea Scrolls weren't random at all. They looked strikingly similar to modern encryption systems. The scrolls appeared to use number sequences that followed mathematical rules, not just chance. But here's the shocking part. These kinds of codes are common in technology invented thousands of years after the scrolls were written. And then, things got even stranger. Researchers began to notice patterns, symbols, calendar references, and even what looked like astronomical markings that seemed to line up with star positions. When they compared them to ancient Chinese star charts, including one over 2,000 years old, the results matched. It was as if the scroll's authors had quietly embedded information about the heavens into their texts. This suggested the scrolls were more than just religious or literary works. They may have carried scientific and cosmic knowledge, hidden in plain sight. Quantum AI has also detected patterns pointing to something even more controversial: traces of secret teachings about the universe, power, and spiritual hierarchy. Many ancient cultures reserved such wisdom only for initiates, protecting it from outsiders. But finding signs of these esoteric ideas in early Jewish writings is a game changer. It suggests that traditions later seen in Kabbalah or Gnostic thought may have roots stretching all the way back to these early texts. If true, it would mean Judaism in its earliest forms was not only communal, but also carried a hidden mystical layer, encrypted deliberately to guard it from suppression or misuse. Whether these patterns were seen as divine codes or carefully crafted archives, Quantum AI has opened a door to a deeper, hidden layer of history. So what does this all mean? Could the writers of the scrolls have known something extraordinary? Something that linked numbers, the stars, and language together? Sometimes the greatest revelations come from the smallest details. A tiny blot of ink, an oddly shaped letter. One fragile scroll even seemed to describe a solar event, a change in the sun, that didn't happen until centuries later. Now, as quantum AI continues to uncover strange numerical codes in the Dead Sea Scrolls, experts remain divided. Some dismiss them as coincidences. Others believe they could rewrite everything we thought we knew. Some believe the strange patterns are nothing more than coincidence, while others think they may be secret messages left from the past. Could discoveries like this change the way we see history and even faith itself? Controversies. As quantum AI continued to analyze the Dead Sea Scrolls, it uncovered something truly shocking. Hidden among the fragments were two tiny pieces of text, 4Q Daniel C and 4QQ Oholeta, that may be the oldest surviving parts of the Bible ever discovered. What startled scholars most was the possibility that these scrolls were written while the original authors were still alive. Until now, most experts believed the texts of the Bible had been copied and rewritten many years after the authors' deaths, with changes slipping in over time. But these findings suggest that what we're holding in our hands could be the very first versions, the original words written down by the authors themselves. If true, this would rewrite our understanding of biblical history. Daniel's scroll may date to around the 160s BCE, while Ecclesiastes could be even older, possibly from the 240 BCE. For centuries, tradition taught that King Solomon had written Ecclesiastes back in the 900s BCE. But now, that long-held belief was being called into question. The discovery sparked fierce debate. Teachers, historians, and religious leaders all weighed in. Some were excited at the idea that the Bible might be more authentic and closer to the original events than previously imagined. Others felt unsettled, even threatened by what this meant for long-accepted beliefs. If these texts were really that old, it meant parts of the Bible may have been written far closer to the time of the events they described than anyone expected. For many, this made the scriptures feel more immediate, more real. But it also raised difficult questions. If the dates were wrong before, what else might need to be reconsidered? Which parts of history could require rewriting? And the mystery didn't stop there. Scholars still couldn't agree on where the scrolls had originally come from, or who had first placed them inside those desert caves. Some scholars believed a Jewish sect called the Essenes had written or collected the scrolls while living quietly near Qumran. Others argued they came from Jerusalem's great libraries and were hidden away during times of war. Still, others thought they were gathered from many different places, reflecting a wide variety of beliefs. The truth was, no one really knew. The fact that these scrolls remained hidden for over 2,000 years only deepened the mystery. Were they deliberately protected from destruction? Were they hidden on purpose, meant to be discovered at the right time? Could they contain messages for future generations, warnings, secrets, or even revelations that the world wasn't ready for until now? To some, their discovery was a miracle. To others, it was simply chance. But as scholars studied them more closely, more puzzles emerged. Why were some words spelled in unusual ways? Why were certain books included while others were left out entirely? Did missing books exist? Ones we've never seen? Every new discovery opened the door to more questions. And for those with curious minds, that made the mystery all the more thrilling. Because sometimes, answers don't end mysteries, they only make them bigger. The scrolls weren't just reshaping how people thought about the Bible and history, they were sparking new debates and new ways of thinking. And thanks to quantum AI, fragments that had once looked like little more than broken, faded scraps began telling their stories again. They offered not just new facts, but new questions, surprising theories, and a window into the lives and beliefs of people long ago. As AI technology continued decoding the Dead Sea Scrolls, researchers around the globe grew more fascinated. This was no small task. The scrolls had been damaged by centuries of time, fire, water, and even earlier restoration attempts that sometimes did more harm than good. Yet now, advanced AI was able to detect overlapping texts, read ancient Hebrew script, and piece fragments back together with a precision no human hand could achieve. For the first time, scholars were seeing the scrolls in ways their predecessors could only dream of. Historians, linguists, and computer scientists began working together across continents. Teams in Israel, the United States, and Europe collaborated through digital libraries and online databases. The Israel Antiquities Authority continued to use multispectral imaging, a technique that revealed faint ink and markings invisible to the naked eye. AI systems then analyzed these patterns, identifying handwriting styles and even matching fragments that had been separated for thousands of years. And the deeper they looked, the more the scrolls seemed to reveal. Some studies suggested certain parts might be much older than anyone expected, while others hinted at variations in the texts that raised new questions about how Scripture was written and preserved. The scrolls were not finished speaking. They still had more secrets to tell. Some of the scrolls contained versions of well-known biblical books, but with surprising differences. In some cases, words and phrases didn't match the traditional Bibles we know today. That raised new questions. Were these early edits? Were they evidence of different communities telling similar stories in their own way? Or were these fragments from books that had been forgotten over time? Meanwhile, the software kept getting smarter. It learned from every fragment it scanned. Each pass made the next one faster and sharper. What once took years could now be done in weeks, or even days. For scholars, it was like stumbling upon an entirely new library buried beneath sand and stone. Many scrolls had been found sealed in jars inside the caves near Qumran. But were there more waiting to be discovered? 11 caves had already yielded scrolls, yet some researchers believed others still held secrets. With the help of AI, even the tiniest fragment could be matched, read, and pieced together like never before. And the journey was far from finished. In fact, many experts believed it was only just beginning. Thousands of fragments remained unread. Even if just a handful of them contained forgotten stories, hidden names, or unfamiliar verses, they could reshape how we understand ancient history. So the question becomes, what else could quantum AI uncover from the past? We've just watched as AI read a scroll that had been silent for centuries, and what it revealed might change how we view our history. But here's the bigger question. Should sacred texts be decoded by machines at all? Or are some mysteries meant to remain untouched by time? Because if this one scroll is only the beginning, imagine what could happen when quantum AI deciphers them all. Could we be standing at the edge of a moment where prophecy and physics finally meet? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to dive deeper into mysteries like this, click on the next video waiting for you on your screen.